Are hearing me fumble away on whether the participants are there or not. I want to welcome you to this webinar on the topic of international study here in the United States. And I am the CEO of a company called Wellspring, and we work with, I think, most of the people on the call are agents. So we have direct partnerships with you as agents working in partnership with us and our university partners. I know it's a stressful time for everybody trying to figure out what we do and how we support these students. While the folks in Washington work on revising the State Department processes for visa appointments. What I'm going to do is start just by introducing the panelists, and then I want to frame this up a certain way and just start to get straight to the question. So I'm going to start on the upper left-hand corner of my screen. We have Abby Swanson, who's from Saginaw Valley State University, a relatively new partner up in Michigan. So Abby, can you just say a couple words about yourself and Saginaw Valley?
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you all for your time today. Saginaw Valley is located in Michigan, the Great Lakes State, as Greg said. And we have about 170 international students and growing. So thank you very much.
All right, great to have you with us, Abby. Thank you. Darren Grosch is with Los Angeles City College, and which is surprisingly in Los Angeles, California. So, Darren, can you say a couple words about yourself and LACC?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Greg, for organizing this event as well. I'm currently the acting dean for Ally Health, and I oversee international student programs at LACC. We're a community college in Hollywood, right below the Hollywood sign. We have close to about 400 international students. We're a medium-sized community college, about 13,000 students currently. So we're excited to have more international students come to LACC.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Darren. And then Nate Duggins is right here with me in the great state of Colorado, representing Colorado State University.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And to the other panelists, nice to meet you as well. Nathan Duggins, Assistant Director of International Recruitment. Like Greg said, I'm right down the road in Fort Collins, Colorado. So we're a large research institution. We have about 30,000 total students and a little over 2,000 international students. So glad to be with you all tonight.
Very, very good. All right. And then the other panelists that those of you are seeing are Darby Simpson and Darby Simpson twice. Those are just folks here working in the office helping me run the session. And so the panelists that we'll be talking to today are Abby and Darren and Nate. And I'll do my best to facilitate a great discussion here. If you have questions of your own, you're able to put those in the chat. Those will be filtered through to me. If we have time to answer them here today, we'll do that. If we don't have time to answer your questions, then we'll be reaching out to each of you individually over the next couple of days to give you the best answer we can, right? And I'm going to start there with the best answer we can. What we're not going to do today is try to predict what the U.S. federal government's going to do or to make some assurances about what we think is happening that we just can't stand behind, right? As powerful as Darren and Nate and Abby are, we are not able to predict what the federal government is going to do. What we can do is respond though to what they do. And I can tell you what we think is happening, and I'm only going to tell you this because this is what's being published. With respect to the visa appointments being on pause, they continue out of the State Department to say it's a pause. They continue to say they want to change some of the processes for the interview, and in particular to focus on social media. Any indication that we've had through a couple of embassies we've been in touch with, through also some direct contacts at the State Department itself, seem to confirm that. We've heard nobody say anything other than this is a pause. So it's an unfortunate pause at an unfortunate time, but that's really all we can say about it. So our questions then are, what does that mean? And what do we do if it's a pause? And what's it like to study here in the United States? And what I want to assure you is that Wellspring continues to want to support our agents. I know our university partners want to continue to support our agents. More importantly, our agents and our partners together want to support our students. And we have hundreds of students who are sitting today with an opportunity to come and study in the United States, hoping that they're going to be able to get that done between now and August. And we still believe that for the most part, students will have that opportunity. But with that, I'll just get to the first question. And that question is, what is the atmosphere on campus for international students? And that's a fairly broad question that may have some sub-questions in there. But let me just start. I'll go in reverse order. Let me start with you, Nate. What's the atmosphere on your campus for international students today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound disingenuous, but it still remains very positive. It really does. I mean, we just welcomed 40 international students on our campus 2 weeks ago for a 30-day research opportunity. We checked in with them today. They're loving it. They're having a great time. Our immigration and student scholar team continues to provide services to our incoming international students. That has not changed, given the recent news. So that continues to be the case. We continue to engage with our incoming international students in positive ways. We're connecting them with peer mentors on our campus, and they're excited. They're excited to get here in late August. So, in a lot of ways, it kind of continues to be business as usual. We're doing what we've always done to welcome these international students, which is great. Maybe we'll get to this, so sorry if I jumped the gun, but I would say our community is more excited to welcome these international students. We've had more calls than we ever had from community members kind of opening up bedrooms in their homes to house international students if they need it. So it really has been very positive to hear the response from Fort Collins, Colorado, and I don't want to take up time from my other panelists, but I mean, despite news, we're very, very excited, and we're remaining optimistic going forward.
Very good. Thank you, Nate. And Nate, or Darren, rather, the same question to you. What's the atmosphere on campus for your international students today?
Yeah, I would agree with Nate. It's very positive. Our college president is a former international student from Ethiopia, so he is extremely supportive of international students in general. He understands our program really well. He understands, all the challenges that international students, may or may not have, especially when they come here for the first time to study. We just had an orientation for our summer intake, and again, real positive. We had a lot of students who were excited to be here. And I think for a lot of us, our faculty are all, from around the world as well. So we have faculty that really do connect with our international student population. We have such a diverse student population just because of the community that we're in, being in LA, being in Hollywood. What I like about where we are located at, and why I think it's helpful for our students when they come to our college, is because they're going to find their people. They're going to find people that they usually can connect with pretty easily, and it just is, again, such a diverse campus that I feel like our students fit in pretty seamlessly. We have a really great support staff that has not changed. Just like Nate said, we're still in full operation mode. We're having our activities that we normally would have for the summer. I feel like we're operating on all cylinders, and so we're excited to continue operating in that capacity.
That's great. I'm gonna throw a little follow-up question. This may be a little bit risky, but I'm gonna throw it to you anyway, Darren.
Yeah.
I was in with you in Los Angeles in the middle of the fires that unfortunately happened at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
What struck me, and Los Angeles is the second largest city by population, but by far the largest city in our country by landmass. And what struck me is, well, all the news is happening about the fires that are all around the city at that time. I landed at an airport, I took an Uber, I got to your campus, I left, and you wouldn't have known anything was happening, right? Unfortunately, right now, Los Angeles is making a little news again today. Can you help us understand where is that happening relative to your campus? Does it have any impact at all on your students?
Yeah, interesting. So no, it has not had an impact at all anywhere near our campus or for our students. I went to work today, business as usual. I had no problem. It was my normal standard 2-hour drive in traffic, so that's a positive for me. I live really far for the room here. I live pretty far away from campus, and so I do get to see a lot of LA as I drive through. I think that's important to note. I see a lot of LA, a lot of different communities on my way to LACC. And again, it was fairly quiet, nothing to report, nothing to see. I personally didn't even know about what was going on until I heard the news. And it just seemed a little bit more than it needed to be.
So this might be a protest happening on 2 or 3 city blocks in the middle of Los Angeles. That would be not so dissimilar from 2 or 3 city blocks in Mexico City, or 2 or 3 city blocks in
Yeah.
Tokyo, or 2 or 3 city blocks in Beijing or Hanoi.
That's a
And the
great
rest
point.
of the city is completely unaffected by what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay,
So big.
good. Sorry to throw that out of the blue, but I thought
Good
maybe the
question.
elephant in the room right now, so let's make sure we get it addressed. Abby, help me understand in Michigan at Saginaw Valley State, how are international students doing there?
Well, as I said earlier, we have about 170 international students. They come from about 45 different countries. And Saginaw Valley has a long-standing tradition and culture of welcoming and including international students, and ensuring that they feel supported both culturally, socially, and academically as they progress through as a student. Right from the very beginning, students are picked up from the airport by one of our student drivers who is typically an international student. And so their first interaction is with someone who has gone through the same processes as them, and so really has a unique understanding. And oftentimes that's their first friend on campus. From there, students are taken to the store to purchase their dorm goods, so like their bedding and maybe some snacks. And then students are shipped into orientation. Orientation lasts about 2 weeks or 2 days, excuse me. And that's when students will register for classes if they haven't already, um, see campus, get to bond with other international students. And I just will probably go into this more throughout the session, but increasing our international student enrollment is a top priority at our institution. We've we've decreased a lot of barriers to accessing education, including increasing our scholarship funds for international students, and adjusting some of the requirements as well.
Thank you. Very good. Little follow-up on this same topic. We've had a little bit of feedback from some of our students and some of our agents that some of the policies in Washington signal a lack of interest in having international students, right? That maybe the international students might not feel welcome when they arrive on your campuses and in your communities. And I heard Nate say a little bit about this a minute ago, but can you just speak to when a student gets through this process, after all the pausing and all the effort they put into it, when they show up on your campus, right? How do you expect your international students to feel in terms of how welcome they are by your campus and how welcome they are by the people who live in the communities that surround your campus, and to any one of you?
As I mentioned, the student is picked up by a student worker, so the students feel welcomed when they get to campus immediately and like they can identify with someone. We also have a lot of different programmings to support students, whether it's taking them on field trips, and showing them around Michigan or even the United States. The larger community and where our campus is located is very diverse. We have several Fortune 500 companies that bring in a lot of international folks. And so we have diverse restaurants and shops for students to enjoy. So it's a very welcoming and vibrant campus.
Okay. And has that changed in the last 6 months, in the last year? Would a student who arrives today feel less welcome than a student who arrived a year ago?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that'd be the case.
Okay. Any place else? Colorado, Los Angeles? Would you expect a student will feel differently who shows up today? Less welcome than they would have felt if they showed up a year ago?
I would say, I would say no. I mean, again, our campus is very welcoming to international students. Again, our president is an international student. He really wants to make sure students are welcome to our campus and to our community. Faculty are really supportive of our international students. They want to see more international students come to campus. And again, the community around us is supportive of international students as well. So no, I would say that has not changed.
Very good.
Yeah,
Anybody have anything else on this topic? Nate, go ahead.
I think what, you know, a lot of these, a lot of us, our institutions have a lot of international faculty. And that's one thing that people don't maybe take into consideration. Of course, we want to welcome, you know, the incoming students, but you know, a lot of these professors, a lot of these, you know, adjunct professors, you know, they were born overseas as well. And so they are huge advocates for our team because they know they're going to be teaching a lot of these international students, you know, depending on the area of studies. So, yeah, I mean, to echo what Abby and Darren said, yes, I mean, they're still welcome. Nothing's changed. If anything, it's almost become more robust in like the welcoming of these international students. But we
Yeah, I
also,
heard you say in your first answer that you've got people from the community proactively reaching out to you to ask how they can help make sure that these students do feel welcome.
which is great. And I think that's a huge, you know, testament to our community, and I'm sure multiple communities across campus. But or I'm sorry, multiple communities across America. But it's 6 months ago, a student walks on campus versus today. I don't think they're feeling any differently.
All right, I'm going to skip over the next question because I think we kind of folded it all in. The question was, does the current visa appointment pause change the university's interest in support for international students? Right, and I think your initial answer sort of communicate there is no change. We still want the students. We still hope the students will come. We will do everything we can to support these students once they arrive on campus and make sure that they're here and they're succeeding. Okay. So I'm going to move to the next question, which again has a few subtopics that any one of you can just choose to speak to when I ask the larger question. And that is once the visa appointment slots are open back up, and as I led off with, we have every reason to believe that it's a temporary pause, so the slots will open back up eventually. How does the university help to plan students who might get to campus late? How do you plan to help students who might get to campus late? Or can they come to campus late? Right?
I can butt in here. So we've actually expanded our staffing to include or to be able to accommodate more international students and kind of anticipate some of the needs that might be coming up. And so we do allow students to arrive late. They have until the first Friday of the semester to do so, which will be August 29th. So they have about a 5-day grace period to get into the country and get to campus. When we do this because it's really in the student's best interest to not jump into a class, you know, beyond a week of starting, because that's really a detriment to the student's success and their ability to catch up. They'll be learning in, you know, likely their second language, and so it's really in their best interest that they hold off. We will allow for students to defer to the winter January term in 2026. But for students also who can't get a visa, we will allow the student to begin their coursework online from their home country and continue through the visa process and continue checking for updates. And so once a student were, for example, if they did get a visa into the semester, they would be able to continue their courses in person as long as they retain at least a full student status of 12 credit hours. So we have different options, and we've been anticipating the needs of students coming to campus late. And so the students will be able to begin online and then transfer to campus if they get their visa.
I'm going to ask you a couple of follow-up questions to make sure it's really clear. First of all, I think that's the right policy. Does anybody have a different policy? Nate, Darren, as far as arrivals late, do we have anything later than drop-out period a week or so after the first class?
Yeah, I think we're the second Friday, so 2 weeks. And
Okay.
they're talking about extending that, but we're getting into the territory that Abby said, like where does it become the detriment to the student? So we're
Yeah.
in conversations right now.
Yeah,
Darren?
kind of similar. So it's within an add drop period. So typically within the first 2 weeks. So that's kind of where we are. Students usually would request a letter saying, "Hey, we're going to be, you know, can you give us a letter?" Which we provide to the student, so that way they have that when they come in, and then we usually know what classes they're going to take. I would just add, you know, just to that, sometimes students who we know are going to be late, or maybe they got an appointment late, you know, it helps us in advance to know, okay, well, then maybe we can plan to have you in a hybrid, type class because, hybrid, in person, online, high flex, there are a lot of options for classes that we can kind of put students in. So that does give us a little bit more of a runway. But in general, 2 weeks is about our time. And then, like Abby, same thing. If a student can't get their visa, we do have an online option. So students can easily just take a class or two online, depending on kind of what their major is. And we're able to kind of help them, during that semester period.
Well, let me just summarize. I think what everybody's saying is academic policies with respect to people arriving late for the start of an on-campus semester haven't changed. Sounds like at Colorado State, there might be some flexibility in that, but the general perspective is at the end of the day, no matter what else happens, we want the students to be successful. And we know that if we have kids show up 2-3 weeks late for class, they're 2 or 3 weeks behind all of the other students, and we set them up for just poor performance and bad grades in their very first semester on campus. I think it's hard enough to be an international student without also starting late. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But I heard then a couple other things. If for some reason through this delay in the visa processes, we can't get a student here to start class on time in August or September, and I know we have different start dates here, we will allow that student to defer their admission to August or to January of 26. And so if they can get a visa that gets approved in the fall or in August even, and then they just show up in January and start. And in the meantime, I think that all 3 campuses have an online option that kids might be able to take. And there we have to work individually with students, their agent. So agents that are on this call, talk to your Wellspring representative. If we're getting to the point where a student really wants to start, looks like they can't quite get here on time, talk with your Wellspring rep. Your Wellspring rep understands the online options available at each of the different schools. I will say that all Wellspring students, whether it's these 3 universities or any of our other universities, has an online option, right? One of those online options, all students are able to enroll at LACC and transfer credits further on if they want to, right? But these 3 universities have their own online program. So presumably a student who wants to go to SVSU will go online at SVSU and show up in January on campus and wouldn't have missed anything. And a student at CSU would have the option to take the CSU classes. But Darren, you said something that I thought was interesting. I was going to come back to Abby and clarify that if a student's in the online courses and then gets a visa, I was thinking that meant that the student wouldn't be able to come to campus till January. If they've started online, they can't just show up on campus in the middle of the semester and continue on campus. It's either they're online or they're on campus. Is that correct for you, Abby? If a student starts online, can they show up in October and November and enroll in the campus classes, or they have to finish the online semester and then come in January?
They would, it's my understanding that if the student receives a visa late, let's say in September, the student was approved and was taking the online course, they would be able to continue in person, provided they get housing. So
Okay. So we have flexibility there. And Darren, you made a simpler mention of, I think you referred to it as a hybrid. And if they were in the correct online courses, one that's a hybrid online course, well, the hybrid, I think, and let me give you my definition, then you guys can correct me. But I think what you mean by hybrid is the student can elect on each day whether they're going to go and show up in class or whether they're actually going to go and take that particular class online. Or is it more that some sessions are online and others are face-to-face?
Flow. So we have high flex is what you just described. A high flex class is a class that is an option for the student to either come in person to the class or take the class online. That's called high flex. A hybrid class typically is going to have assigned days that the student will need to come to campus. So it will be, let's say it's a 16-week course, 14 of those classes are going to be online, 2 of them are going to be in person. That's an example. And then
So the high flex class gives a ton of flexibility, and it's really perfect for this situation because student gets their visa on the 30th of September and says, I really just want to be here in Los Angeles studying. They can get on an airplane, show up, and the next day of class, they can walk into their class.
in theory,
Versus doing it online.
In theory, if they are taking the high flex classes, they could. I would just say that it would be important to know that when students are in that situation that they have proof that they're in those classes so they can get in. Because usually I think what's going to be nice about a new student that's initial, and Nate and Abby, feel free to jump in on this too. But I do think a new student coming in does have flexibility because you could do a reduced course load for academic reasons. There is some flexibility there where you don't necessarily need to even enroll them in 12 units of credit. You could do a partial load as long as they do the RCL. So I do think there is some flexibility as long as there's over communication. You can kind of navigate it a little bit in a way that would be beneficial to the student. I don't know if Nate or Abby want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of the theme we're talking about here is the communication with the student, right? Because we've all worked with students that get that visa super late and they're really excited, and they should be, right? Because they're coming to the States or wherever they're going. But I think really letting them know what that means, is arriving on campus September 20th, like, is that going to be good for them, right? It's not like they're just going down the street. They're flying across the world and they're not going to, hit the ground running. There's a adaptation period. And so, I mean, yes, all of us are going to have options, whether it's the high flex that Darren's talking about, or my options, or Abby's options, or whatever it may be. But I think really it comes down to like, okay, student, we know you're super excited about the visa, but let's talk about really what is in your best interest. So
I think
that
that's a great way to end this conversation because this about this particular topic, right? In each case, it's going to be a case by case basis. What is in the best interest of the student? And I'm going to qualify back and just make sure we also say, with all the flexible options that we have in the online environment, right? We also will have to respect, and the universities will have to respect the SEVIS rules that require the students are registered as full-time on-campus students, right? And so it may be that starting online means that then you can't actually arrive on campus until January, but there may be some other circumstances where these high flex opportunities allow us to give students a little bit of room. So, all right, so students can come. Look, we believe they'll still have an opportunity to get into these visa appointments. It's going to be pushing close to the deadline. We're hoping that most students can still get here on time. If they can't, then they defer to January. If they don't want to defer till January, they really just want to get started. COVID unfortunately taught us a lot of lessons, and all of these institutions are really good now at figuring out how to support students in an online environment. Okay, is that a good wrap up here of this topic as far as you guys are concerned? Fantastic. Next question is related. The government is saying that the pause is required in order to help our visa officers be retrained on some new processes. That means that they're going to conduct the interviews in a somewhat different fashion than they have up till now. We think that's mostly focused on a review of students' social media record. So the question is this: once we understand what the State Department is looking for in the interviews and what the new process will be, do you anticipate your institutions doing anything to help students prepare for those new interviews? Do we do visa prep? Will the visa prep change?
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in quickly. I mean, because there's a lot of unknowns, right? But we at a lot of institutions do a lot of like pre-arrival stuff. A part of that is kind of, I mean, not necessarily visa training, but almost, hey, these are pretty common questions, but those common questions might change, right, Greg? To your point. I don't want to sound overly simplistic, but I think kind of getting back to authenticity, right? Like answer, why are you going to XYZ university? Are you able to answer that in an authentic way? And not just, these visa officers, I think, are pretty good at sniffing out scripted answers, right? They hear, I don't know how many a day, but to get back to your question, I mean, yes, we've already do pre-arrival stuff, and we'll adapt to the new, I guess, rules or parameters, and we'll move forward with that.
Abby, Darren, anything different on your campuses?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Abby.
Just similar to Nate, we do pre-arrival visa preparation sessions, and so we will adapt our sessions to the new parameters.
Very good. Darren?
I just add, so on our website, we do partner with Argo. So LACC students, if they want to pay for a fee, there's a fee involved, but I think they get like a 10% discount because they're going to apply to LACC. They can talk with a visa officer. That is something that the student would do themselves, but it is a prep that they can't pay for. In addition to the pre-arrival that we do with all of our students. And then on our website, we do have a lot of information about how to prep for your interview. We have a lot of links to YouTube videos that actually kind of go, and you can see what past Argo visa officers would suggest that you do. So there's a lot on our website that you can just look at to get those tips. But in addition to that, we do have, of course, the pre-arrival that, you know, we're happy to help students navigate through.
So all three of these institutions, and I think all of the institutions that we work with do this kind of pre-arrival visa training and support. Wellspring also does that on behalf of our institutions, and we kind of try to encourage students to take advantage of both opportunities, right? So you can't have too much preparation. Well, you can, to get to Nate's point, right? If the student starts to sound scripted, like somebody told them what the answer should be, that doesn't come off well to the visa officers. But you know, certainly Wellspring will be updating our visa preparation sessions once we understand exactly what the State Department is after in these new processes. And I think I heard all three of the panelists say that their institutions will be doing exactly the same thing. I do also want to sort of reinforce what Nate started with, because I have seen a couple articles like this as well, right? That in addition to social media, they seem very focused on making sure that we have bona fide students who've made the decisions for themselves about where they want to go, why they want to go there. And so we value agents, right? Here in the United States, we call them college counselors, right? But part of what we have to do is, and all of you help these students understand, you know, what's the difference between Colorado State or LACC or SVSU or, you know, some other institution that the kid might be interested in. So there's this invaluable service that agents provide in terms of helping kids understand what the options mean, and what their opportunities are when they get to these places, right? And where does it fit for your budget? Where does it fit with the academic preparation that you've had in high school, and what your grades are, and what you'd like to study? There's 1,000 questions that an agent can help with. But when the student steps up to the window, we want them to feel like, having consulted with their agent and thought all this through, they made the decision themselves. They know why they're going to Colorado State. They can tell the visa officer where that is and why they chose it, right? Or they know why they're going to SVSU, and where's that, and why did I choose that one versus the other ones that I have. I've seen a couple articles, Nate, that seem to suggest that they seem to be on that kind of a path. And so if a student steps up to the window and can't tell the visa officer, you know, well, where is LACC, or why did I choose to go to LACC instead of going to Colorado State? If the kid doesn't have answers to those kinds of questions, we're seeing that might be problematic. So that's something to really just sort of help the kids own their own decisions once those decisions are made, because of that I've seen the same thing. So I'll leave that alone. I'm going to go on a little sidebar here and give our panelists a little bit of a rest. We do have some feedback on what we think and some recommendations on what we think students and agents should be doing right now to be ready when the visa windows open back up. Thing number one is get your students their I-20s. They should be holding the I-20 in their hand. In order to make sure that happens, all of our institutions have all either waived or deferred their deposits. And some didn't have them in the first place, right? I'm gonna use Colorado State, Nate, as an example, because I think you're in the deferral category. There's a deposit that's usually required to get your I-20, now is being required to register and enroll. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for undergrad students, there is a deposit, but it's easily deferred. And then with graduate students, they've never required a deposit. So that's even a thing. So
Very good. So deferred just means later on they'll have to pay it. What we're saying to you is get your I-20, right? We've moved the money out of the way. There's not a financial risk to getting your I-20. There's not a deposit you're going to pay to Wellspring. We waived all of ours too. We have deposits at some of our universities, all waived during this period of time. So take advantage of that. Have your students get their I-20. Okay. And some schools are deferring, and that just means if there was a $200 deposit that was required for the I-20, now that $200 deposit is required to enroll in your classes, which would mean, but you got your I-20 and you must have done well at the interview, right? So we've moved that out of the way. So please have your students go get their I-20. And then we think they should use their I-20. And we went back and forth on this, and we've done a lot of reading and a lot of research. We believe that students will be much better off if they've actually registered with SEVIS. So we are recommending that all students who have an I-20, even though they can't see appointments available yet, that they go ahead and they pay their I-901 fee and they submit their DS-160. And what that does is it puts the student in a position where the only thing they have left to do is actually book the appointment. You've got your I-20, you paid your SEVIS fee, you paid your DS-160 fee, you're in the system, and when you wake up in the morning and hear that there's visa slots available, open that up, book the appointment. And we're hearing that that's a valuable strategy, and the kids should be doing that. So get your I-20 and then use your I-20. There is a little bit of financial risk on the second part, right? But those SEVIS fees and DS-160 fees, they're good for 365 days. So it puts the student in a position where they're immediately able to book an appointment when the appointment becomes available. And should that not happen in time for August, that fee is good for 365 days, which means it could be used to book an appointment for January enrollment, and it could be used to book an appointment for August of 2026. So get your I-20 and use your I-20. And the last bit of advice, we are every day, multiple times a day, checking those sites and looking to see, are those appointments open yet? You'll hear from us loud and clear when that happens. There'll be messages that come out from Wellspring. There'll be Wellspring reps in country calling you and texting you, WhatsApping you, whatever we got to do to make sure you know we see appointments open. And on that day, go ahead and go, right? Unfortunately, sometimes we're sleeping when you guys are awake over there. So agents, please monitor the same things. Please monitor the visa appointment availability in your home country, and please notify your students immediately if they see it. And if they're holding their I-20 in their hand, they should be able to register. And if they've already paid their fees and their DS-160, they should then be able to just log on, get the appointment, and move on, right? And so let's not waste any time. That would put the students in the very strongest position that they can be in order to be successful, get an appointment when it comes available, and get here hopefully on time. Okay. Any questions about that? I guess you can't ask me, so ask it in the chat if you have questions about that. Very good. So last, I'll go back around the horn one more time here, and in closing, I just want a slightly different question. So I'll dwell on it for a second. What can you say to incoming international students and their parents about the continued value of studying in the United States and the value of studying on your campus, right? Not are they welcome anymore. We've established that they're welcome, but what's the value to a student who comes and studies at your institution? What do they get out of that? Anybody want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
You know, I would say this, it really depends what the students' goals are. You know, we're here in LA, we're in LACC, and we're in California. So for some students, their goal is to do 2 years at a community college and then transfer to a 4-year university. And the benefit of just being in California as a whole is we have some of the top universities in the world right here in California. UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC Irvine, UC Santa Cruz, UC Santa Barbara. I mean, the list goes on and on, in addition to some really outstanding private schools. So having access to that, being at a school like LACC, where our job is to transfer students to top tier universities, right here in California. I mean, it's a really great opportunity for that educational journey to start here at our campus. So that's one option. I would say there's also students who are coming for certificate programs, right? Short-term degree programs. And that is another really great option for students, especially being in Los Angeles. There are so many amazing opportunities to find once you complete your degree program to work through OPT or through CPT, right? And so because it is LA and there are so many just opportunities, no matter what it is you're looking to do, whether you want to get in the film industry, music industry, business, computers, I mean, the list goes on and on, right? I mean, there really are just a lot of different pathways that students can go ahead and jump into because you're coming to a community college. And because you're coming to a community college in Los Angeles, that just is automatically connected to just everything, that is, California and the world. I mean, again, this is like what the fifth largest economy in the world, California is. And so there's just diversity and a lot of options. Again, I would just say you have the pathway option to a 4-year university. You could do an AA degree, 2-year program, OPT. You could do a certificate program, and then follow along with that. So I think there's just a lot of different options and value right there that you could look at if you're coming to a school like ours.
And similar follow-up there to our first question. Has the value of that education changed in the last 12 months?
No, I would say absolutely not. I mean, I think it is staying the same. We're still transferring students to 4-year institutions. People are still doing their OPT. People are still graduating in a variety of different areas. So no, I mean, it is still the same goal. It has not changed. If anything, I think if anything, we're better equipped for all of this, given everything that has happened, with COVID and what we've already seen before. I think we're now better equipped to handle this, and I feel like we're really well prepared. And I think students coming in are going to find that they're going to have a really, positive experience.
Very good. Abby, I'll put the same question to you.
Sure. Kind of kind of related to what Darren was saying, in a way, but I would just like to state that in light of the current political climate, and how it might seem, I just want to say that US institutions have remained resilient over time, and they've been hubs for students and intellectuals, for innovation and progress to be made. And so a student looking to study in the US can be part of that and can contribute to global understanding. And so, yeah, we still encourage students to study in the US, and it should be considered as part of the student's long-term career journey. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And Nate, same question to you.
Yeah, I'll jump on Team USA here as well because I don't think it's changed. And I mean I'll get back to kind of where we started this conversation. It may seem like we all just got together and we're like, let's just say good things about the States and you should come here. But we mean it. We want international students on our campuses. That's never changed. They're huge contributors in and outside of the classroom. That hasn't changed. The value of a US education, obviously I'm biased being an American and having lived here my whole life, but I mean, just the sheer size of the country, the number of universities that we have of varying sizes, of varying academic interest options. I mean, if your students want something, you can find it. I mean, I think this panel is a great example. You have a community college, and then you have a big state institution. And then Abby, forgive me, I don't know how big Saginaw is, maybe 15 to 20. Is that fair? Am I wrong?
Just under 8,000.
Perfect. I mean, we are a perfect example of the diversity of institutions in the United States. And depending on what your students want, you can find your spot. And I think that that's really, really cool and really unique. And that isn't going anywhere. The academic options, the research options, the short-term opportunities, that's here to stay. So that's something that the US, I think, is always going to be able to offer.
I don't think I can say it any better than the three of you said it. I think that's a great place to close things out. I did see that there were a couple questions in the that were very specific that I saw that came through the chat. So those of you who asked questions, we are going to get back to you. We're going to follow up with those questions as directly as we can. I think the bottom line is people are still wanted. Your students are still wanted here. Our institutions are still open arms, welcoming of those students. The communities that our institutions find themselves in are also open arms. And I just would ask those of you here as agents, I see some from China and some from Indonesia. I think we have a couple from Vietnam. Just ask yourself this: when the government in your country makes news, for the good or for the bad, when you go down to the corner restaurant to see your friends, have they changed their perspective on the world? Have they changed the way that they think about their neighbors? Have they changed the way that they think about their international friends? Right? And I'm going to say to you, the answer to that question is a very big no. Right? Those of us here in the United States who have wanted international students here for years, who have welcomed them onto these campuses for years, the communities that those colleges find themselves in have not changed their opinion about that. Right? And the people, right, that your students will come and have dinner with, and go to class with, and go out with at night to create stories that they won't tell their parents. Those people, they still love having these international students here, and nothing has changed. Not a single thing has changed in terms of the day-to-day lives of American people and what they think about how to treat the people around them on a day-to-day basis. What you hear on the news, what gets blown up in social media, the way that people talk to each other online, it's like this very small percentage of people making a lot of noise in social media. And 99.9% of the people are just good-hearted people who continue to live their lives the same way they ever did. And so they'll treat your students the same way they always have when they get here. So I want to thank you all, Nate, Darren, Abby, for your time here today, for doing it on very short order. We thought it was important to get the message out as quickly as possible. And I know we all have extremely busy schedules. So thank you all. To the agents and others who are on this call, we thank you for taking the time to hear it. Please take advantage of your Wellspring representatives. Please ask them any further questions that you might have. We will do our very best to get back to you, and we'll just keep communicating, and we'll all find our way through this in the end. So thank you all, and have a good day or a good evening, depending on where you happen to be sitting right now. Okay? Thank you very much. All right.
Thanks, y'all.
We'll see you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.